Check, check, check. It's not very loud. Yeah, do it. Yep. Yep.
All right. Hey, thank you for sticking around for a little while after service today to talk about Nazarene Youth Conference. Nazarene Youth Conference is the biggest event that we are a part of in youth ministry. So for teenagers, middle and high school students, Nazarene Youth Conference is the biggest event that we participate in. If you haven't heard, it's a huge conference for USA and Canada and kind of worldwide. There's some missionary kids that participate in it too. But around 10,000 teenagers, around 10,000 high school students will gather in an arena to play and to pray and to worship and to dive into scripture and to serve the community together. And we have seen, like, time after time after time, the fruit of NYC is so rich in the hearts of our students and in the lives of our students. And it's something that lasts. It's not just a moment, but it's the start of a movement in the lives of our students. And so we've seen the incredible value that NYC has for teenagers, and we believe in it wholeheartedly. And so we want to encourage as many people as we can to think about participating in NYC. And today, we actually have the unique privilege so the Nazarene Church is organized into different areas. We call them districts. It's just groups of churches that are kind of geographically close to each other. So our church is part of the Kansas City district. So if your student has gone to camp or breakaway or anything like that, those are district events that we gather with other churches from our district in Kansas City to do things together. NYC is the same. It's global, but we go as a district. So we travel not just with Grace Community. We will always be together as Grace Community, but we also travel as a part of a larger group, which is the Kansas City district. And we have the unique privilege that the Kansas City district NYC organizer attends our church, and it's Nick Hunt. So Nick and Jen, it's actually probably Jen Hunt, but Nick's name is on the roll.
It's 80-20, 80-20.
So Nick and Jen
80-20.
serve as our NYC coordinators for the Kansas City district, which means they do the hard behind-the-scene work of the details and the planning and the financials and everything. So nobody knows what our trip will look like better than Nick and Jen. So instead of me sharing with you about NYC today, we've invited Nick to walk us through some of the details, and then we'll have a time for question and answers at the end as well.
Awesome. Thanks, Brandon. You can hang on to that. So he's going to hang on to that microphone, and I'm using Joel's microphone because we're actually recording this so that I can send it to other churches so I don't have to drive all over the Kansas City district to do this meeting. So this is our informational pre-registration meeting where we'll go over as many details as we have for the trip, answer some questions you might have about what does it look like when you send your teenager and entrust them to my care for a week, which I know for some of you that's a serious concern, which is why Jen goes with us. But what it looks like, how we move, where we go, what we're doing, how much it costs, and some of the fun stuff that we're going to do too. So I'm going to start off with a short video. This is one of the promo videos that we use that just introduces NYC.
Have you ever seen the wonder in your second life? Have you come out of the waters with the old left behind? If you have so say, I see the world in light, I see the world in wonder, I see the world in light, bursting in living color. I see the world in love, I see the world in freedom, I see the Jesus way. You're the wonder in the world.
So I hope you saw in that little video, in that short video, you saw a bunch of different things. You saw a giant worship service. You saw a concert. You saw students playing in a gyroscope G-force simulator. You saw pictures of the mountains and the valleys out in Salt Lake City. So So that's all what is encompassed in NYC. And last week at District Assembly, one night, what we summed it up as, if you can imagine as an adult, if you can imagine all the retreats and mission trips and camps and parties you ever had as a youth group and in your entire life, okay? And then smash them all together, turn the volume up to 100%, and then stretch it out over a week and add 10,000 of your closest friends. That's really what NYC is. It's a life-changing, shaping event for our youth. Most of them only get one shot at going because of the timing. It only happens every 3 or 4 years. So we want to make sure that everybody here gets a chance to go if they want to. Some important dates that we need to talk about right off the bat. All of your payments will be made to the local church. Okay, so you guys aren't sending money to the Kansas City District. You're not sending money to NYC. All of your payments are due to the local church. October is our early registration deadline, and your first $500 is due. In January, your second $500 is due, and that's also the late registration deadline. So if you haven't signed up by October, and you sign up anytime after that before January, then you're going to actually owe the first 2 payments plus the late payment fee. So you'll actually have a balance of $1,200 due by January if you haven't made your first one. March, the third payment of $500 is due, and then in May, the balance of the trip is due. The trip cost is $2,000 right now. The reason we put that balance due down there is sometimes we've been able to, right before the trip happens or as we get things finalized and we make our deposits and we finish negotiating contracts with buses, airplanes, restaurants, so on and so forth, sometimes we're able to reduce that price slightly. We always do our best to make it as affordable as possible. We've actually already reduced this trip from what we anticipated would be $2,200 down to $2,000. So we believe that God will provide the resources for all of our students to go, and then we can keep that trip cost down. Our schedule for the Kansas City District. Wednesday, July 1st, we'll travel from Kansas City to Salt Lake City. When we get there Wednesday evening, we have our field event. The kickoff for the NYC before the actual event starts, everybody gets together as a field. And if you don't know what fields are, it's all of the Nazarene University regions. So we'll get together with all of the other districts from the MNU field, and we're going to the Utah Olympic Oval, which if you don't know what that is, that's where they do all the speed skating and hockey for the Olympics. So we're not going to go play hockey, but we'll get to skate around on the hockey rinks and have a big party there Wednesday evening. Thursday morning, July 2nd, through Sunday around noon is NYC 2026. So NYC is all day Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and then we have a closing service Sunday morning to send everybody out. One of those days, we will have a Ministry with Others project where we'll be doing a service project in the city. One of those days, we will have a rec hall. This is my buddy Tatum. Say hi, Tatum. Say hi. He's not going to NYC. He's not quite old enough yet, but he's getting the information anyway. Yeah, okay, so one day we're going to do the Ministry with Others project. One day we will be in the rec hall. The rec hall is a giant playground where we go, and you saw the kids riding the G-Force machine. All of the universities will have a booth there, so the students will get to visit with all of our Nazarene universities, some other ministry areas and opportunities. It's just a big hangout place for most of the day. And on the third day, or one of the 3 days, we will be doing what's called the Experience. And the only thing I can tell you about that is it's an immersive exhibit that goes along with the theme of NYC this year, which will be wonder. So it'll be a chance for your students to literally, physically walk through what it means to have the wonder of God in their lives. Sunday afternoon, after the closing service, our district is going to head directly from Salt Lake City to Park City, Utah. We're going to the Utah Olympic Village, which, if you don't know, that is where the 2036 Olympics are going to be held. And that's the 2 ski jump hills there. We'll be going to the Utah Olympic Village where we'll spend the afternoon and evening. If you don't know what you do at the Winter Olympics during the summer, here's a couple ideas. Like I said, there's the ski jump hill. And Darwin, go ahead and turn the volume up on the computer on the soundboard there where it says computer. I want you to hear... it might not look that cool, but I want you to hear what it sounds like when this person's going down the tubing hill. don't know if you could hear the screams, but it's pretty intense. I went down one, and it's not just any old tubing hill, let me tell you. So we get to sled down the tubing hills. There's a mountain coaster that you get to ride down, some zip lines, other fun things. So we'll be spending the afternoon and evening there at the Olympic Park. And then after that, we'll head back to we're staying in Salt Lake City the whole time. We're not going to move hotels. We won't be moving to a different town or anything like that. We'll stay in our hotel in Salt Lake City for the duration of our trip. Monday morning, we'll get up and we will go back down to Provo, Utah, which is about 30 minutes south of Salt Lake. And Monday morning, we're going to do a float trip down the Provo Canyon. And before you guys get any crazy ideas of like whitewater rapids and kids getting thrown from rafts, let me show you what the Provo float trip looks like. It's literally just about 3 hours of floating on an inner tube down a river that is slightly faster than the lazy river at your local pool. We're going through a company called High Country Adventure. So we'll do that, the float trip, Monday morning. And then after that, Monday afternoon and Monday evening's activities are still to be determined. We are still trying to iron out the details and contracts of what we want to do Monday afternoon and evening before we head back home on Tuesday when we come back from Salt Lake City to Kansas City. Like I said, a lot of parents and students that have never been before kind of wonder, what does it look like when a group of 500, which is our goal to take 500 students to NYC from Kansas City, what's it look like when a group of 500 kids is in one place at one time, moving back and forth to dinner, to services, to activities, so on and so forth. The event will be about 10,000 people, and we will be about 500 of that. So some of the safety guidelines that we follow, we have a minimum ratio of 8-to-1 students per adult, okay? We will never take more than 8 students per adult on any one of these trips. As a district, we're fortunate enough that we have a lot of adults that want to come help and are willing to come take vacation time and come spend time with our students and help. So we typically run about a 5 to 6-to-1 ratio as a Kansas City district. One of the things that we are cautioning our youth pastors for this time is in Tampa a few years ago, we got down to about a 4-to-1 ratio. And we want to make sure that we stress this is a student experience. This trip is for our students. And it's great that we have a lot of adults that want to come help. But if we get too many adults, it causes more harm than good. And so we are going to hold strict to our no more than a 5-to-1 ratio of students to adults on this trip. Sometimes we move as an army, and sometimes we move as family groups. Your adults, when we leave, you'll have one adult that's responsible for, like I said, 5 to 6 kids. From the time we get to the airport on Wednesday morning till the time we land at the airport Tuesday afternoon or evening, that adult is responsible for those 5 kids. At no point during the entire week will those kids not be with that adult, okay? So at the very minimum, your student will have one adult with them at all times, and they will always know where they're at, what they're doing, and they'll be managed that way. Sometimes we move as an army, and when we do, I rely on my adults to get their kids to where they're going. And so if we're moving all as a group, even then, that one adult will be responsible for those 5 or 6 kids to make sure that they're moving in the right direction and we get to where we're going. As a district, we always have at least one certified medical professional with us at all times. We call her Doc, and so at any time, our group will have access to a medical professional if we need. And the event provides professional medical services throughout the event as well. River safety. Obviously, like I said, we're going to float down the Provo Canyon. The river is never more than about 4 feet deep. High Country Adventures provides life jackets, and they are required. So your students will have a life jacket, and they will be floating down a river that's no more than 4 feet deep. And so in the unfortunate event that they fall out of their tube or tip their tube over or jump out of their tube, they simply just need to stand up, and they'll be fine. The river moves just slightly faster than the lazy river at your community pool. The adults from our group, as well as the High Country Adventure staff, will be spread out along the float trip with our students, so there will never be a bunch of students just on the river by themselves. There will always be adults, and there's several spots on the float where the students can kind of drift over to the side, stop, play in the water, enjoy the scenery. When I did this float last year, it was 100 degrees outside and the water was 45 degrees, so it was awesome. So that's the safety. Okay, registration. The registration process, we use Planning Center, and the best thing I can tell you is that NYC's Planning Center doesn't talk to, doesn't like, doesn't relate to, has nothing to do with anybody else's Planning Center, if that makes sense. So if you've signed your student up for an event with us, and you've used Planning Center for a retreat or camp or mission trip or anything like that, forget about all that. Okay? When you click the registration link for NYC, you will be signing your student up for their own Planning Center account specifically for NYC. Okay? So I'm going to walk you through the first few steps just to hopefully avoid any confusion in that registration process. Once you click the link, it's going to take you to the registration site. When you get to the registration site, there's going to be a button down there that says register. Okay? Once you click the register button, it's going to take you to this, and it's going to say, what's your phone number? It means, what's your student's phone number? It doesn't mean what's your phone number. It means, what is your student's phone number? Put your student's phone number in there. Click next. It's going to send your student a 6-digit code, verification code. And in the meantime, the next screen is going to ask you for your email address. At this point, you may put your email address in there if you want to make sure you get all the correspondence of emails coming from NYC. Otherwise, put your student's email address in there. Once you click next, you will put the 6-digit code that was sent to your student's phone number in, and then once you verified that, you'll put your students' names in there. That's not my name, that's my brother's name. Once you put your student's name in there, then you'll take you to the registration. Once you're in the registration, you click student registration, and then you start following the questions. The questions are all your student's information, okay? Unless it specifically asks for parent's name, parent's address, parent's phone number, parent's email, etc. Always, always, always treat this as if you're registering your student by themselves. So, that's real quick. It's the schedule. It's what we do, what we're doing, where we're going, how you register. Now the most important thing is, and Brandon's going to have the microphone so that we can hear it on the video. Does anybody have any questions? Yes. Microphone. Listen, somebody else might have the same question on the video.
Is that October 1st or 31st?
The dates, I put the payments in there as the months. Your youth pastor will decide those dates for them because you must pay your church, and then we have specific deadlines that we have to meet as a district, and we will expect the churches to pay by those deadlines. So we gave those deadlines to the youth pastors, and they will communicate their specific payment deadlines to you guys. So those are the months. You'll get a specific date from your youth pastor for that. Anybody else? Somebody's got to have a question. All right. One more thing I wanted to share with you. We talk about everything that's fun and exciting and adventurous about this trip. And one of the things that Brandon mentioned last week and that you saw on the video last week is one of the main reasons that why we do this trip is because it's a life-changing opportunity for your students. And there's story upon story upon story of students' lives and adults' lives that have been changed at NYC. I want to share one quick story with you. And it actually, the only reason I'm sharing it is because it happened to us a couple weeks ago, and it just has to be shared. So when Jen and I were serving at a different church several years ago, we went to NYC in Louisville, Kentucky, okay? And the theme for that year's trip was Thy Kingdom Come. And the experience that year was an immersive walk through the Lord's Prayer, okay? So you walked through the first room, and it said, what does it feel like? What does it smell like? What does it look like? What does it taste like to physically walk through the Lord's Prayer? Thy kingdom come, thy will be done. Give us this day our daily bread. Forgive us our sins as we forgive those who sin against us. And at the very end of the walk, of the immersion walk, is the doxology. For thine is the kingdom and the power and the glory forever and ever. Amen. And so it's a dark room. There's a group singing that song. And at the time, our youth pastor's wife was dealing with a cancer situation, and she was going through cancer treatments. And all of the adults for the youth group had a time of 3:27 p.m. every day that we all stopped and prayed for this individual. And we had it on our phones, and as we were going through our days, every single day at 3:27, an alarm went off, and it said, stop and pray. And so we were doing that. We were doing that regularly for several months. And our group from that church was going through the experience. We walked through the experience. We did everything. We got to the very end, and it was just this powerful moment of thy kingdom come, thy will be done, and singing the doxology. And the group sang amen. And as the second they stopped singing, like 15 or 20 adults in the room, our phones just went, brrr, brrr. It was 3:27. It was time to pray for our youth pastor's wife. The cancer was not the first thing that they had dealt with as a family. They had a young daughter who at the age of 3 or 4, went home or was feeling sick one Sunday night. They thought she had the flu. She ended up having something way worse, and she died that night a couple different times. And she was dead for several minutes, and they brought her back to life, and she spent a week or 2 weeks in Children's Mercy. And we had a really close relationship with this family, and that little girl was fully healed and recovered, and went on about her life. And I was doing an informational meeting at Lawrence First Church 2 weeks ago, much the same as I'm doing here. And that mom and daughter came in the room, and she's going to NYC with us this coming summer. So there's a reason above and beyond all of the fun that we do why we go on this trip. And so you can't explain that any better than hopefully I just did, or that your students can when they come home from this trip. So thanks for paying attention. Brandon's going to talk a little bit about our local fundraising needs and how we're going to make sure that our goal from this church, I think, is to take 50 kids. So 50 kids is $100,000. And so we're going to raise $100,000 and take 50 kids, right?
All right, so I will add on to the question that was asked earlier. We're going to simplify it, and our deadline is just going to be the 1st of every month of that. So October 1st, January 1st, March 1st, and May 1st will be our deadline here at Grace Community for those registrations and those payments. And yeah, we believe in NYC.